I am coming to you live from Philadelphia this evening, here for work, but that's not stopping us from our Chayei Moharan shiur. Thank you to everybody who's joining us, who's watching live, who's watching the recording. Thank you so much. It means a lot. We're going on a very exciting journey. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay. For this week, we are continuing on. We are so close to the end of the Hakdama, the end of Reb Noson's introduction to Chayei Moharan. We're continuing at the words that say V'karasi Shem HaChibur. That's in the Hebrew, if you're looking inside the Sefer with us. If you're looking inside the English in BRI's version of Tzaddik, it is on page 24. Okay. So, while preparing for this shiur, there was a very short, minor blip, I should say, of a thought that I was like really itching. I was like, should I just summarize the Hakdama and let's just get started? I just want to get into the Sefer. That second and that thought, I'm very pleased, passed really quickly, because I think the whole purpose of what we're doing is to take this one step at a time and to go on this journey. So I'm holding back. So if any of you else had that thought, like, why we're on like week 3, we haven't yet fully gotten into the Sefer, it's all going to be worth it once we understand Reb Noson's purpose for why he turned this into a Sefer. And I don't want to take any much longer because our time is important, and let's take a look at what we're learning this week. So Reb Noson is going to describe exactly why he decided to call the Sefer Chayei Moharan. Moharan stands for Morenu Harav Nachman, and there are many other Breslov sefarim that have similar names, like Sichos Haran. So those are talks of Reb Menachem. As well, there's like Likutei Moharan, that's the main Sefer. Lots of different sefarim have that name. Okay. Says Reb Noson, V'karasi Shem HaChibur Hazeh B'Shem Chayei Moharan. I call the Sefer Chayei Moharan. Machmas Sherubo Misaper Mechayev Hakdoshim Masher Avar Alav B'Mechayev Hakdoshim. The majority of the Sefer talks about Rabbi Nachman's life during his holy life. V'chayim asher chai ba'olam, and that which he had during his lifetime. Ki hu haya ish chai be'emes. He was a tzaddik that was truly alive. Asher lai haya digmose, and there was no one like him, no other example. Ki chai tamid chaim amitim, and at all times he was completely alive. Chaim shalei zacha b'hem adam ha'olam, and there was no one else like this that merited to have such a life and lived the life that he did. Now, Reb Noson saying this, even understanding the true trials and tribulations that Rabbi Nachman went through in his life. For anyone who knows of Rabbi Nachman and what he went through serious adversary from even within the Hasidic world. He also was very, very sick towards the end of his life with tuberculosis. So if you think about physical or mental or spiritual challenges, Rabbi Nachman was not without that. And we're going to learn more in the Sefer of what made Rabbi Nachman truly, really strong. But Rabbi Noson here touches on that, and we're going to see that in a moment. What could make someone who had such a life still live one of complete youthfulness and vitality? Uv'chol pam chai chaim chadashim. Each moment he was living was always new, completely renewed. Kasher nishma mepiva kadosh, like we heard from his own holy mouth. Shepam achas amar ani chayisi hayom chaim shaloi chayisi mo'elam chaim kazeh. Said Reb Nachman once, I am living a life, one life that I've never lived before. As in, like, that moment was completely new for him. And then after he had made that statement, he began teaching the lesson of Kartalisa, which is Likutei Moharan Siman Yud Ches, Kenyusham Bazeh HaSefer L'Kaimon B'Mkoim. And later on in the Sefer, we're going to touch on a little bit more of the backstory from that lesson. But just on this point, Rabbi Nachman also says, when it comes to doing hisbodedus, that each day when we're doing hisbodedus and talking to Hashem, that we should be reciting or speaking to Hashem in that moment, that right now I am beginning anew to be able to attach to you. And that is a way of us also being able to follow in Rabbeinu's footsteps of how do we live a life of meaning, how do we live one with a destiny, with a purpose, and how do we, if we're feeling, or we should be doing constant tshuva. So while we're doing that, what is a way that is an easier method to be able to do that is by constantly renewing ourselves in each moment. Just like Hashem renews the world every second. It says, that each moment Hashem is creating the world anew. Us too, we too can tap into that when we're talking to Hashem and connecting to Him. So it's a very powerful thing that we can apply in our own daily life. Continuing on, v'haklal she'ikar ha'chaim hu'chaim amitim. What is real life? We're going to touch on a very, very beautiful idea here. What is real life? Real life is one of true wisdom. Shu chachma amitis, k'mo shekasav ha'chachma techaya es ba'aleha. Chachma, wisdom, which gives life to those who possess it. And I just want to touch on another idea here. In chassidus, there are two different types of life. There's the concept of true life versus spiritual life. Now, those are known as chayim amitim and chayim medumim, which can also be translated as illusory life or illusory. I'm probably not pronouncing that right, but that's, illusory life. So Menachem, and there's other Hasidic masters as well, which touch on this point, and they emphasize that true life is not merely just biological existence. The fact that we're just living means that there's true life, but rather it's devekus, which is deep connection to Hashem. And a person who's constantly aware of Hashem, living with faith, living with emunah and Torah, that's someone who's truly alive because he's tapping into the source. So Rabbi Nachman also, he touches on this in Likutei Moharan, lesson 8, and that's the second ois of lesson 8 in there if you want to look it up. It says, he teaches there that true life, Chaim Amitim, comes from the tzaddik of the generation. So because he's connected to the Torah, which is that's the ultimate source of Ruach HaChaim, that's the ultimate life source. So the Torah itself is called Ruach Elokim, the spirit of Hashem, and that sustains creation. So by tapping in to Ruach Elokim, by tapping into Ruach HaChaim through Torah and through connecting to the tzaddik, you're connecting straight to that source, and that's where you can also achieve devekus. However, in contrast, illusory life, one of the Chaim Medumim, that's life which is completely disconnected from its source. So when a person seeks some sort of vitality from an illusory perspective, trying to gain material pursuits or ego or pleasures, taivas, they may be feeling, then that inner world remains completely empty because it might feel good in the moment, but there's nothing really there from a tachlis standpoint. So true life is not just existing, it's also being connected to Hashem through Torah, through emunah, and of course, the guidance from the tzaddik. There's a really beautiful sefer. I'm yet to learn it. It's on my list of sefarim to learn. But it's a sefer called Chayei Nefesh, which was written by a great mashpia in Breslov. His name was Gedalia Koenig. It was actually written in response to Nefesh HaChaim, written by Reb Chaim Volozhiner. And there, in that sefer, one of the things that Reb Koenig discusses is the role of a tzaddik that he can play in our life. And I really want to get to that sefer. Maybe another chabura, we can learn that one. I think that would be a really great idea. But just if anyone wants to learn a little bit more about this idea, obviously Rabbi Nachman talks a lot about how to connect to the tzaddik, but this is also a great sefer to learn. So just wanted to throw that out there. Anyway, so Menachem teaches that by attaching oneself to the tzaddik and to his teachings, One receives Ruach HaChaim, drawing into true vitality instead of chasing these illusions. So this is the difference between a life filled with divine purpose and one that merely appears to be full but actually lacks a lot of meaning. So it was just one idea that I felt connected to here that I wanted to pull out. And this is one of the ways we can connect to the tzaddik through our learning, which is the way to actually connect to Hashem. The Ikar HaChachma, and what is the essence of wisdom? Continue on the Sefer. Lishtadel u'lisyageya leida lahakir oisei yisbarach, to labor and to endeavor to know Hashem. Shehu HaChaim, because He is the life of all life. He is the life force. V'chol echa k'fi keruvei lezeh, kein chayav chaim u'lehefech lehefech. So the closer one comes to Hashem, the more his life is a genuine life. And unfortunately, the opposite is also true. The more you veer away from Hashem, the more you try, God forbid, to not know Him, or just not tapped into that world of attempting to know Hashem through His learning, through His Torah, through connecting to the tzaddik, then unfortunately you're further away from that true life force. So therefore, V'al Kain, Rishoyim b'chayehem kruim uvim mesim. That's why the tzaddikim say that Rishoyim, the wicked, are in their life called dead, because they're not tapped into that life force. Ulahefech. And the opposite, tzaddikim in their lifetime are called chaim, but also tzaddikim b'misasam. Tzaddikim, once they've passed on and they've left this world, kruim chaim. They're still called life. Number one, they're still connected to that life force, but also I think it's from a legacy perspective, because not only were they alive in their life because they were connected and tapping into this source of trying to constantly recognize Hashem in their life, but also I think it also has to do with, if I'm thinking this is from my own understanding, that they're also leaving a legacy of how to tap in to the source, how to achieve dvekus, how to learn properly, and how from their achievements to also connect to Hashem in the method that they taught us. So not only are they alive during their lifetime because that's what they're striving to their entire life, but also once they've passed on from this world, that legacy still lives on. So that's a very, very powerful idea that we can all apply to. So, Machmas shetamid heim devekim b'chaim amitim. So why are they called, even once they've passed away? Why are they still called living? As a result of them constantly being connected to this true life. Like we mentioned just a few minutes earlier from this very famous pasuk, you are attached to Hashem, your God, are alive today. And this is what we daven for during the Yom Noraim of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. This is what we're davening for. We say so many times, remember us for life, write us for life. Because without this, not only does it mean grant us actual life living in this world, but also grant us the life that's spiritual, i.e. connecting to Hashem. We're crowning Hashem on Rosh Hashanah, and when we're saying write us for life, also that means we want to be connected to you. I see we have a question here. Is that tzaddikim are always alive because they're in heaven or because of what they left over in this world? That's a great question, Morty. From my understanding, that tzaddikim are alive. No, I would say that tzaddikim, once they've passed on to the Olam HaEmes, their legacy they'll be in heaven, but at that same time, their legacy lives on down here for us to be able to connect to Hashem and to connect to them also through their own words. I think there's a lot more depth to this, and it can be discussed, but I think in just a quick moment, I hope that answers your question. You can let me know in the chat. Okay. Continuing on, there's also an idea that clicked for me a little bit as well. Okay, we're good. Shkoch Morty, great question. So something clicked for me while I was learning this. And if you're connected to Breslov at all, you know of the famous Uman Rosh Hashanah. But this is not a concept that is like unique just to Breslov itself. Obviously, Breslov goes to Uman, but Chassidim, typically, they spend Rosh Hashanah, they spend Yom Noraim by their Rebbe. Now, as we were just discussing, the Rebbe is the one that teaches us how to be properly connected to Hashem. And as Rav Nosson has just pointed out here, he's the one who's connecting us and showing us what the true source of life is and how to retain, maintain, connect, and find a life of purpose and destiny. And that's one through Torah, through Tefillah, through Emunah, connecting to Hashem. So, if Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, especially Rosh Hashanah, is the one where you're saying, Zachoreinu l'chaim, we want to be connected to the true life, and the way to do that is to be connected to a tzaddik who's teaching us how to live such a life, then what better place to do that is amongst all your chassidim, amongst all those people who have that shared vision. We're all trying to strive for this holy life. Who's showing us how to do that? The tzaddik. So if we're all gathered by the place where the tzaddik's essence is like bursting out from, I would say, or where he physically is, then that's where else would you want to be on such a holy day like Rosh Hashanah? So there's many other reasons why people go to Uman or they spend Rosh Hashanah by the Rebbe, but that was just an idea that connected with me while I was preparing for this year. So, continue on the Sefer V'Chaim Elu Nemar, and of true life it's said, Laman Tichya V'Chulil, Laman Yirbu Yemechem, Laman Tichyun, and there's so many psukim that talk about true life. These are in order that you may live, in order that your days should be many, in order that you should live. So many psukim that talk about Chaim, and this is all about connecting to Hashem. Of Chaim Shezacha Hu Zechrein Levarcha, referring to Rabbi Nachman now. And so the life that Rabbeinu merited, Adayin like Taman Shum Adam Olam. There was no higher level that could be achieved, but for the life that Rabbeinu had. He had such a high, holy level, and the way he understood Hashem's world was so lofty. Asher mi sheyizke lahargish ma'at hanisnoitzusus mini'imas hachayim shaloi, and happy is he who is worthy of sensing even just a little bit of the radiant pleasantness that his life had. And as we touched on earlier, see, it's not the life of, how do you have a long life, a great life. It's not necessarily the things that you merit, or it's obviously not about any physical pleasures or the gashmias, wealth, objects, possessions. And it's clearly not whether you lived a great life, whether it's physical or mental or spiritual. Well, obviously it is spiritual. I almost ran away with that one. But it's clear that even Reb Nachman, through his life and through the challenges that he did have, he still merited to have Chaim Ruchim, Shah Chaim Ruchim, and that's what it says right here in the Sefer. Chaim Toivim Be'emes, a life that was good, a life with truth, Kumuvan Mahamaisa Shel Shiva Butlers, and this is also seen in the story of the 7 beggars. I highly advise you reading and learning this story. This is one of the stories that Rabbi Nachman gave towards the end of his life, and it touches on a little bit of this idea. Asher al Chaim Elu Bikesh Dovid HaMelech Alav Shalom Harbe, and this is the life that Dovid HaMelech himself requested from Hashem many times in his own tefillahs and his own tehillims and things that he wrote. K'moshe Kosav Tadi'eni Oirech Chaim, make known to me the path of life. So it's a little bit shorter shiur today, but we are very close to the end of the Hakdama. And in Mirz Hashem, perhaps next week, while preparing, I will let you know if next week's the week that we finish off the Hakdama, or maybe the following. We'll keep you posted on that. But thank you, everybody, for joining. Before I close, I just want to let you all know that Be'ezras Hashem, we are working on printing our first Tikkun Haklali that will be available on Amazon, where you can purchase it. These are 10 tehillims that Rabbi Nachman revealed to us that are a general remedy for spiritual maladies, very, very holy Tehillim. And these 10 psukim, these 10 kapitulot can be said any day. And also they are said in Uman. But we are making our own copy, and Emertz Hashem printing it very, very soon. The proof is Emertz Hashem arriving at my apartment as we speak. So I'm very, very excited to get that first copy out, and I will have copies on me, Emertz Hashem. So if you ever meet me on the street, you, God willing, will be able to ask for one. So it's coming very soon, details to follow. But thank you all for joining, and wishing you a fantastic week.